Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you another video. All right, so we got a game tonight between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat in Miami, Florida. And it's going to be game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. And we want to talk about it right here and now. So, this is it. Tyler Hero basically came into a game where neither team could hit 3-point shots and ran the score completely up like a cheat code. That's basically what we saw there. No team could do pretty much anything against one another in Philadelphia up into that third quarter moment when they really called his number and just kind of unleashed him. And that's pretty much the story of that game. Obviously, Joel Embiid was out, but you really didn't get a whole lot of anything from anybody on the Philadelphia side at all. They were all pretty much struggling one way or another, except for Tobias Harris, who went 11 for 18 and got some boards and things like that. But I think the problem with the Philadelphia 76ers in that last game is just the style that they decided to run with in replacing Joel Embiid. In a short amount of time, what a coaching staff's nightmare probably is having to go from being the centerpiece, being your center, and everything running through him, to having him completely removed, and then trying to delegate a specific offense that caters to the other guys around him without him in a matter of 2 days. Do you see what I'm saying? That's basically what the Philadelphia 76ers coaching staff was faced with. They had to reinvent their entire offense overnight and their entire defense overnight against one of the best defenses in the league. So instead of trying to jumble around and figure that out between game 1 and game 2, they slapped DeAndre Jordan in at the center position, and to me it seemed like they tried to just continue on as normal. And of course, anybody that follows me or anyone that follows a Laker fan or Lakers anything knows that DeAndre Jordan isn't going to be able to hold that down. Okay, we've had many videos where we've talked at length about DeAndre Jordan's inefficiencies as it pertains to the Lakers situation and how bad we looked with him on the floor. Of course, that situation is different, but he's not. His game is not catered for today's game. His style of play at this stage, with his body being, hitting Father Time, is not NBA worthy at all. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm saying that because it's just an observation. When he was a fantastic player, I would tell you he was a fantastic player. He jumped out the gym. He was one of the top rebounders in basketball, one of the Iron Men in this league for a very long time. Didn't hardly miss no games in his prime. Was one of the reasons why the Clippers were as good as they were. He basically, along with Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, made the Clippers organization relevant again. So I have a lot of respect for what he's accomplished in this league. But he's just, like everybody else, past his time, and now it's time to retire. And unfortunately, he's in a very prominent position in these playoffs for a very important team that's in a very bad situation. And it's just the coach's decision to put him out there instead of trying to figure everything out. But I think now they've had some time to work on that offense. Now they know they can't run DeAndre Jordan, and I think they will make the adjustment to probably go small. Now, my suggestion has been to run Matisse Thybulle at the center position, because even though he's very undersized for the position, his skill set and his defense matches what it is that you'll need him to do in small ball lineups. That's been my thing. You can put him down there, and he's going to overachieve defensively against people who are much bigger than him because he's so damn talented defensively. He's going to find a way. And then you don't worry about him stretching the floor at all, because that's not his game. Although if you leave him out there, he's been able to hit it here and there. But his offensive game is not there. He's not a good offensive player just yet. So you just run him at the defensive end. You give what you can get out of him defensively, and then on the offensive side, you're kind of running 4-on-5 in most situations, which isn't a good strategy, but it's the one I thought of, I guess. But there's a better one, and the better strategy is to run Tobias Harris at the 5. Then you can still stretch the floor, and you can do all the things that you need to do just in a smaller lineup. You run more Danny Green, you run more Paul Reed, who's also a bigger forward, power forward, small center position. You can run him there as well. So they have options at the small ball if they want to go there, but they're going to have to go there because DeAndre Jordan is a failure for them. That's not gonna result in success. So That's what we've learned. What we didn't learn is that James Harden is not going to be able to carry them offensively. We didn't learn that because we already knew that. I think the media was trying to tell people that James Harden was somebody that he was not, because it was in their best interest to continue pushing, propping him up for the sake of that Brooklyn Nets team and everything that was going on with that. But now that he's out of there, the trade has been made. It's very obvious that if Ben Simmons was at least a little healthy, that the Brooklyn Nets won the trade and that Philadelphia got fleeced because they played top dollar for James Harden, and James Harden is not necessarily that anymore. Although, between you and me, we know what the bulk of that price tag actually was. It was Ben Simmons. It wasn't James Harden. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Either way, the point is, James Harden ain't the guy they need him to be. They're missing the pieces that they let go of in that trade, and now they find themselves in a position where they need a center, and they don't have one because of it. So, James Harden is just an inefficient player at this stage in his career who can do a lot of things for you passing the rock. He's reinventing his game to turn into somebody who looks pass first. Pass first, pass first, pass first. Because otherwise he's just jacking up shots and ain't falling, trying to get past people, and his first step ain't working. I think that growing injury or some of them injuries that he's had over the years started to really wear down those muscles that he used to really get past people. And I think that's what the ultimate story is. He doesn't have the leg strength anymore. So that means his shot ain't as accurate. That muscle memory ain't there right now. He can't seem to build the muscles necessary to get that muscle memory back. And he can't get past people and all that stuff, as I said. So the calls aren't coming as frequently. Defenses are smarter against him because they've studied him for years. This is a lot of stuff that's working against him. And while it's okay because Joel will be out there scoring 50 points, that in turn makes him a threat. That in turn makes Maxey have more space to maneuver, etc., etc. Everybody falls into place. Tobias has been great, so he's fallen into place there. When you move Joel Embiid, now you find yourself in a situation where the defenses get to hone in on those guys. Now you get situations where the defense gets to hone in on him, and that's a bad thing. When you consider they don't have a paint presence for him to throw the ball into and reset and draw the defense in and get off of him. They never get a second off of him. And this is a very talented defensive team on top of that. It's not like he's just going up against a run-of-the-mill Laker defense. Nah, we're going up against the Miami Heat conglomerate who has a system that they've been running for 10 years, a mantra about themselves that continues to have next man up at all times. You ain't beating that without all your horses. You ain't beating that after making a bad trade that depleted you of key assets. You're not beating that. So that's really what it is. That's why this series isn't really a mystery to too many people at this point. Joel Embiid is out, and they have to reinvent their entire situation with lesser than what they need to do so. And going up against a talented team like Miami, that's not possible. It's just not. What they need to have happen is people to step outside of themselves. First thing they need to do is figure out all that we just said, that offense. They need it. Second, they need Tyrese Maxey to find his confidence again and to be able to, once again, maneuver without Joel Embiid, which he hasn't been asked to do. Even when they didn't have Joel earlier in the season, as I said, they had Drummond, so that made things just as easy in some ways. It's just they need a center really badly, and they don't have one. Doc Rivers needs to start playing Furkan Korkmaz as well. I think it's very important to get Korkmaz involved in this series. He's an instant offensive type of player. It's somebody they got early in the draft many years ago. It's not like he can't play. He's never played anywhere else, so you've never seen him in the system, not involved in Philly. I mean, certain times you look at certain situations, you say, okay, that player, he was drafted to be something, and he's never left the place he was at that never let him grow to be what he is. That's Furkan Korkmaz. That's him right there. He's never left that place. So how the heck do you know he can do anything else? You only know what they've asked him to do. And I'm telling you, he can do more. I've already seen that. His efficiency is much better than they've allowed him to be. He needs more minutes in this series. I respect the Paul Reeds. I've seen good play out of Shake Milton, but Furkan Korkmaz is a more effective player in theory for them right now. They're dropping the ball by not playing him. I also think they need to go in the back of that bench, play these rookies. There's a guy by the name of Isaiah Joe. I don't know what he can do. I don't even know what position he plays. But I know he's a fresh kid, and I know all these fresh kids are better than people think they are. They just need opportunities. Just about everybody in the whole generation is better than they're being treated as, because the way that they're being treated is old applied thinking to how they used to treat players that didn't have multifaceted aspects of their game. All of these kids grow up knowing how to do a lot more than the old scrubs of yesterday's NBA. They need to be applied differently. And I know that. I just know it. These kids are better. So you need to treat them different. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Philadelphia 76ers are behind the 8 ball tremendously. The Miami Heat don't even need to be mentioned very much because, like I said, they could play all of their bench and still come in with a guy like Tyler Hero and blow you out. That's just how they are structured. Bam Adebayo's finding his wind. He's getting in better shape. Jimmy Butler, same thing. They're all fighting off injury. Kyle Lowry still resting. He don't even need to be in this series. He can relax and get to 100%. This team is coasting. If y'all can't tell, the Miami Heat are coasting through the playoffs early. They're not having any issues with anybody they're running into. And while that's a good thing for them in terms of staying healthy, it's a bad thing for them in terms of being tested. And when they run into Milwaukee or Boston, they're going to feel it because of it. You can't just play against these little weak teams, no disrespect, but they're just weak. They're weak. You know, these teams are weak. They run into the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta Hawks didn't have nothing. They run into a depleted Philadelphia 76ers team, even worse than the Hawks team right now. They're not playing anybody, and that is not a good thing. So I don't think there's anything they can control. You just beat who's in front of you. But I'd hate paths like this, real soft playoff paths. They never bode well for the teams that have them. So that's just something I'm noticing. You want to see them call, well, I mean, not really. I was going to say you want to see them call Duncan Robinson, but nah, they don't have to. That's the beauty of the Miami Heat. Like in normal situations, you say, yo, they're not playing that guy. They should. Not necessarily. They don't have to. They have other pieces that are getting it done. But what I will say is Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, all of those guys that they were relying on in the last series, it's not necessarily shooting the same way in this series thus far. Now, it's only through one game. We don't know nothing in one game. But if those guys struggle tonight, I think the Heat should probably shuffle around, give some other guys some minutes. They have them. So, you know, I don't imagine that they'd be relying upon Gabe Vincent and Max Strus throughout the entire series, playoffs. I think they're working their way from the back of their bench forward, honestly. And as the series progresses, the Heat players that you're used to seeing, the bigger names, are going to get more and more featured as these playoffs progress. That's what I think Spoelstra is doing, and I like the strategy, especially since the series that they're running into are weak. So, yeah, that's really it for the Miami Heat. Ain't a whole lot to say, man. They're not being tested. They can make mistakes and get away with it. They could lose players and be fine. It's just they're in the easiest position there is to be in these playoffs right now, and the best thing for them to do is just rest as best as possible. Rest anybody that has the smallest, slightest injury. Continue to lean on these players that can't handle business. Their biggest defensive assignment, in my opinion, right now is Tobias Harris, because everybody else on the Philadelphia 76ers is still struggling, trying to figure out their way without Joel. Tyrese Maxey needs to shoot more, whether it falls or not. You're the number 2 player on this team, which means right now you're the number 1 player on this team, and you need to play like it. Simple as that. Simple as that. The Tyrese Maxey that goes for 16, 6, and 6 is not good enough. For you, it is not. For other players, yeah, for sure. For you, not now. No. At this point, we expect Tyrese Maxey to go for 30. We expect Tyrese Maxey to hoist over 18 attempts. And we expect Tyrese Maxey to help in other areas as well. He's going to have to do that. He is not showing up in these playoffs the way he needs to. He's had maybe 1 or 2 really good games. That ain't good enough, especially without Joel. Step it up, sir. Everybody's talking about James Harden. James Harden needs to play better. No, James Harden don't. James Harden's already proven in this league for 13, 14 years exactly who he is. He's at the end of his journey. The pressure, if the media actually had what's real in mind as opposed to their narratives, they would be putting the pressure on Tyrese Maxey to play better because he's the one that actually should be. But nobody's going to say that but me. So it is what it is, man. That's what I got. My name is BDF44. I'm looking forward to this matchup. Kinda. That's a lie. I'm not. I'm hoping this matchup hurries up and they sweep this team so we can go on to the Eastern Conference Finals, because I just don't like watching teams that I know don't have enough to compete. Guys get frustrated, guys get dejected, and it's a process that has nothing to do with them. It has to do with just what they're given to start the process of the game. They don't have enough. So why am I watching that? That's always my perspective. But because we're doing this at the channel, yeah, we'll keep up. But no. I'm honest with you guys. I am not looking forward to anything having to do with this matchup until Joel Embiid puts on a mask and comes back out there and plays, which is something that he needs to do. He needs to do that when he's cleared, and I'm sure he will. I don't think he's like sitting here saying, no, I don't want to. I think it's a situation where they haven't cleared him yet, but it is what it is. So that's that, man. BDL44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.